Hi, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In today's video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for the week of October 26th through November 2nd, 2025, and I'm working with the October Stories by the Month kit from Ali Edwards. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so this is the last week in October. And it actually overlaps into November a little bit, but because this week has Halloween in it, I wanted to use October products. So I'm gonna use the October Stories by the Month kit. I'm just gonna kind of lay out my photos with an initial kind of thought of how they're gonna be on my spread, and then I will go from there. So this is Halloween. Maybe I'll do Halloween on the bottom here. We winterized the yard. We got some candy from C's. We made ramen bowls. I had a lot going on at work and getting ready for December daily. So there. And I met my daughter's new cat for the first time. So there's an initial kind of layout. You can see I have a lot of photos this week. And this week actually holds, I think, 8 days because I was just trying to get back on track with my Monday through Sundays for after vacation. This also, because I'm gonna use the Stories by the Month kit, has my pieces of October, so I'm gonna do that at the end. But in my bin here for my kit, I have all of these pieces of ephemera that I have kind of saved from the month. So I'm just gonna put all of these to the side for now, and I will work on that in a little bit. So first, let's figure out how I want to do this layout. And, oh, here's some more ephemera. I also have this October 2020 or Halloween 2025 sticker from Cocoa Daisy. Because it had the year on it, I wanted to make sure to use it. So I might actually just put it in the ephemera thing, but we'll see. So I have some 4x6 pockets first. So I have this season. That could be good for a list. October looks like this and this. Also, that would be good. I do need a base for this one, which is like a Halloween card. This card that's been in every month, I'm putting those aside. I might use those next year. October Magic. This could maybe work for that. There's a border or the floral. Depends on what I want to do with this card. I think, let's see, I have these die cuts too. And here's all the 3x4s. So let me put these 4x6s back. These ones I'm not going to use. So there are these kind of like remember this ovals, and that would be kind of fun to use as a jumping off point, but there are 5 of them. I don't know if I can make that work on the spread because there's a lot going on, but let's see what else we have. We have these short story ones. I don't love those. A list, deep breaths in this chapter. That would really go with this work story. I was working a lot this week. I'm just like, so I'm checking back in my take a note. And this is where I write down kind of a recap of my day. So yeah, I was working a lot this week. So I have like another long work day, witness prep. I had a big trial the next week. And so there was a lot of prep work in this week. And this is one of my exhibits. And so I took a photo of that. I normally don't like take pictures of anything at work, but this is one like you can't see what it is at all, just how big it is. So I think I want that. And then I do want to tell the story about meeting Ponyo, my daughter's cat. And then I do want kind of like a list story. I always want a list story. So I could either use this one for my list story. Oh, and I need a title card. That's a good title card. Or even this one. And then these, I think I want to use these, but I think I want to use this for Halloween. And then we've got my candy here. I feel like I could put this on here. I don't know that I need that much space, but I could use, maybe put it like coming off of the card and crop it so I could just put what I need. Actually like the purple though. Well, but let's see, do I want anything over here? I don't want to cover any of that with one of these. I was hoping I could fit one. I guess I could put one right here. So I didn't look through this. I have this vellum. So I could put this, I'd have to put some white behind it and do that for the story. And then I can kind of repeat that throughout. I think I might switch this and this so we don't have these two next to each other. Maybe even switch this here, like Halloween, and then this. And then this I can tell, I need to decide if I need all of these or if I want just this one. So this is going to depend on whether or not I need more space for journaling. So I'm not sure yet. I don't think I can fit these anywhere else. I mean, I could put one here and just kind of use it as a remember this embellishment, but let's see what else I have. So in this kit, we've also got alpha stickers, and then we've got some chipboard and some die cuts. So let's do the chipboard first. We've got these little like love you, October challenges and successes. I'm gonna push this up so I have a little more space here. October, what does this say? Doing October things. Currently, memories, love you. Here for all these magical October moments, and this is what I want to remember. Let's see. I could hit this one for meeting Ponyo. I voted, I think that was actually November though. So this is prepping. For trick-or-treaters. This was like the change of the season. So I have my Halloween mug and my December daily sweatshirt because it's like all of these things. Let's see what we have in the die cuts to play with. So some of these are like, I love this, but it's so big. And then there's, let's see, there's these guys. This October moment. They all say this October moment. So this would be good if you wanted to repeat this across the spread. I don't think I want to use those though. I think I want to use some of the chipboard. And then there's these stars in the colors of the kit. And I think these would be cute with some white word phrase strips from my stash. And then maybe I could pair some of the love yous with that. So I'm gonna, okay, so I think that that is good. I think what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put you guys on voiceover and start getting this one put together. And then I'll see if I have more journaling to go here, if I wanna swap it out with that card. And then I will work on building my embellishments.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys can be tipped off from my red sleeves, but I actually put this one together during December Daily Prep Day. So I was kind of recording while watching lessons. So I think it was a little bit of a slower process for me, which is totally fine. I was having a lot of fun with it. And you'll see as we get into the process that it does take me a little bit longer because I do a bit more creative stuff when it comes to my ephemera pockets. But first, I'm going to work on the spread. So what I decided to do with these ovals is use 3 of them to add a little bit of additional journaling to the spread. For this one, I'm going to add it on top of this photo of my candy. And this was an order from C's Candy. If you've never tried them, you might not want to go down the rabbit hole because it is very expensive, but it is by far the best candy that I've ever had. So good. So anyways, I wrote out a little bit about that on here, and then I'm going to adhere it down on top of the photo and then just trim it off so that it doesn't take up too much of the photo, just a little bit. And you can see everything perfectly fine and just adds a little bit of the story there. The next oval, what I'm going to do is do some journaling about Halloween, and I am going to leave the other 2 ovals on my spread completely full. As I said in my introduction, I was trying to decide whether or not I needed that this season journaling card, and I definitely could have used that for my journaling for Halloween and instead put an embellishment next to this photo of pumpkin, but I really wanted to use 3 of the ovals because when you use a embellishment or some sort of thing like that, you can either just use 1, but if you want to do some repeating, doing 3 across the spread makes a lot more sense. Just visually, it kind of ties everything together. And usually you want to do an odd number. So there were 5 in this kit. And I was trying to think of ways that I could use all 5 because I have been in a zone lately of wanting to use up supplies. And one of the ways I do that is use everything of something. So you'll see I'm going to use all of the stars in this spread, which was something I was super happy with. Actually, I did end up missing 1 because I dropped it on the floor, but that's okay. I essentially used them all. And so here, anyways, I'm doing my journaling about Halloween. You saw I also added a larger title to those 2 ovals, and I'm going to do the same for the 3rd one when I get to it. But what I did to add those was use the Tombow Funisuke soft tip, which is a marker. I use it a lot in journaling, and I talked about this recently somewhere else. I'm not entirely sure where, but if you have been following me for a while, you know that years ago I used to really only do scrapbooking, or at least only share scrapbooking online. I've always been a paper planner person, but I didn't really do decorative planning or share it. And over the past probably 5 years or so, I've gotten into journaling and planning. And I was talking with some friends recently about how that is such a similar hobby, even though a lot of people who follow me are like, oh, I only do one or the other. There is so much overlap. So if you are someone who's like, no, the journaling and the planning is not for me, totally fair. You can totally skip those. But if you are at all curious, sometimes you can get ideas from other types of projects and translate them. So one of the things that was kind of a long way to say that the Tombow Funisuke is a pen that's very common in journaling, and doing those larger words interspersed with regular journaling is something that people do often in their journals. And I love the idea of just bringing that over and including it in my project life. So back to what I'm working on, I'm going throughout the spread and adding some chipboard embellishments on a lot of the photos. Again, I wanted to use all of the chipboard pieces, but this kit just has too much in it to use it all on one spread. It's just not going to happen. Totally fine. I used all except for 2, I believe. So now I'm moving on to the stars. So I wanted to do a embellishment cluster with the stars. That would be a star and a word phrase strip. So I pulled over this white word phrase strip sheet from my stash. It was one that has some fall themed words, like that one says November. And I shared this tip in some previous videos, but essentially when I'm working with word phrase strips, I always want to use the most specific word phrase strip that will fit my story. And that's because those ones are harder to use. So for example, if I have a story about spending time with family and there is a sticker that says family, and there's a sticker that says together, and there's a sticker that says remember, I'm going to use the one that says family because that is harder to use. One that says together is also specific, but not as specific, because I can use that for family or friends or, you know, me and my cat or whatever. And then remember is so general, I could put that on pretty much any photo. So those are the ones that I'm going to use when none of the specific word phrase strips work. And that is my favorite tip, I guess, to kind of use up your word phrase strips, because if you don't do it that way, you're going to be stuck at the end with some very specific sentiments, which you can see on my sheet there. I do still have some specific sentiments because sometimes they just never work, but it is what it is, and I'm doing the best I can to use them. So I moved on to this journaling card here. So for that one, I created a journaling card using one of those ovals by adhering it onto one of the vellum pieces. And then I added my embellishment cluster directly on that journaling card. So usually when I do embellishment clusters, I might just do it on photos and repeat that same treatment. So you see the star and word phrase strip I did on 3 photos so far. But sometimes I want to repeat that same idea on some of my other cards. It just depends on whether or not it fits the spread. So here I did it on my title card, which is off camera right now, but you'll be able to see it again if you missed it, and on that journaling card. So that gives me the opportunity to include 5 of those stars on here. I do still have a lot left, but you'll see how I use them pretty soon. I'm moving on to this journaling card here. So for this one, I'm going to journal a bullet point list of little stories from the week. So I like to just include any sort of little stories from the week on my spread. This is kind of one of my favorite pieces of Project Life, is just the idea that I can include these micro stories that I otherwise wouldn't remember. So for example, I wrote that I had a dentist cleaning on Monday. Not that exciting, pretty boring. It is in my planner, and that's how I remembered it. But just to take a note that that was something that happened this week. That was a part of my week. And sometimes those little things kind of add up to the big picture of your life. So that's kind of why I like to include them. So I wanted to do that list because I was trying to decide whether or not I needed that additional journaling card, that 4x6 one, and it turns out I didn't, because I had quite a bit of journaling between the ovals and that list and then that work story. So what I decided to do was swap it out for the card that says October looks like this and this. Honestly, I preferred the way the other one looked on the spread, but I just did not have more journaling to do. And I could have maybe printed another photo to include in there, or just done some big words. I could have done some big stamping. I could have added some embellishments, but I decided to just swap it out for something simpler. And it does work. I'm happy with how the spread comes out, and I'll be able to use that other card some other time, probably maybe in next year, because it's going into my stash now because it is a pumpkin and we're moving out of pumpkin season. Although I have my own pumpkin. My cat's name is Pumpkin. So anyways, I'm slipping things into the pocket, and then I'm moving on to this side. I think I'm done at this point, just going to slip things into the pocket, make sure I like the final arrangement. I do have more photos in this spread than I usually print, and I can't remember if I talked about that earlier, but I usually try to do 5 photos on these. So the one on the right here, you see how there's 9 pockets. I usually try to do 5 photos and 4 journaling cards, or 4 photos and 5 journaling cards, so it's pretty even. But this time I only had 3 journaling cards, and that's totally okay. It worked out. So that was the end of the spread, and now I'm going to move on to the insert, which is my ephemera insert. So if you are new to my channel, I have been doing this year. I might have done it last year also. I think I did in a slightly different way. But what I'm doing is including a 2x2 page protector in my album every month in the spread that I use, the Stories by the Month kit. And I'm including pieces of ephemera from the month into those 2x2 pockets. And I love how this comes out. I love this process. I love collecting all the pieces of life throughout the month. I love putting this together. I love the way they look in my album. So I am planning on doing the same thing again next year. And the title there, you see where it says Pieces of October. I made those at the beginning of the year, and I actually shared those as a free download, and they are in my 2024 my 2025 Project Life setup video. There's a link to download them there, and they're totally free if you want to use those. So I just wanted to mention that again in case you missed them, because you might want to use those in 2026. In 2026, I plan to do something similar. I'm not entirely sure yet how I will do it or what I will switch up. I will likely do some sort of different title, and if I do, I'll probably share that as a download as well. But that will be as part of my 2026 Project Life setup video, which will probably be later in December, if not the first week of January, just because I have so many other things going on at this point. I'm working on catching up in Project Life. I'm working on December Daily and my journals, my 2026 journal lineup. Like, there's just a lot of projects this time of year, and I love it. So anyways, back to the process. I decided to crop down this 4x6 vellum piece that was in the kit to 2x2 squares, because then I have 2x2 color blocks, and I thought it would be fun to use these as a home for some of the pieces. So I have this tea bag of Moroccan mint tea, and I wanted to include more of it than fit in that 2x2 pocket. So what I decided to do was just trim a little piece of it and have the second part overflow onto this vellum piece. This is where I decided to use the stars. So I had that vellum piece and it was really pretty. I liked how it looked, but there was a lot of blank space. So what I decided to do was adhere one of the stars down. And then I took it over to my sewing machine and stitched it down. And I'm not sure if you can tell very well in the photo or in the video, but I did switch out the thread in my sewing machine to be green thread. As I mentioned, we're coming up on December daily, and I use my sewing machine quite a bit in that project. And I thought it would be fun to mix it up and put some green thread in there. I had black in it previously from a project. I tend to switch my thread every so often based on a project I'm working on. And then usually I just use whatever thread is in there. But generally I keep white because that one tends to go with most projects, but I have had black for a while. So now I'm excited to have green. We'll see how long that one lasts. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I was trying to shake it off because one of these tea bags, the one that I'm trimming here, actually had some like loose tea stuck in it. And so I have tea kind of all over my desk and sticking to the page protector and stuff. So I'm just kind of like trying to shake that off. So that's, pitfalls of collecting trash essentially. But this piece of this tea bag was a little too flimsy to kind of get it to go in the pocket on its own. So I just backed it on a scrap of white cardstock and was able to add that using some rolling adhesive and get it to fit. So I want to include that Cocoa Daisy Halloween sticker on the top there, and I'm going to put it on the outside of the page protector because it is bigger than 2x2, but I don't want to crop it down. So I'm just trying to kind of map things out and see how I want them, because once I add that sticker, I won't be able to open those pockets anymore. And honestly, I end up messing it up and I have to peel it up a little bit, but it's fine. It all works out. So I decided I wanted to include all of these vellum pieces that I cropped out because I was really liking like how the colors were coming together, and I wanted to kind of stick with the colorful theme from this kit. I really loved the colors in the October Stories by the Month kit this year. And so I'm using that kind of as a base for a lot of what I'm working on in this pocket page. So typically when I do these ephemera pocket pages, it's just my ephemera in pockets, and that's it. I just crop them down to 2x2 squares, and you can totally do that. It looks amazing. It's a fun way to look back on all of the pieces of your life. But for this one, I was enjoying playing along in product play and just kind of, or not product play, prep day, listening to the videos and just kind of making stuff. So I took some extra time to just embellish it and use up some of the additional embellishments along with my ephemera. So I stitched another one of the stars down on the piece of that piece of vellum, which is going on the back. And then I'm going to cover it with the sticker. So you can see me just kind of placing that sticker on there. And that's where I messed up, because the one beneath it, I have not put something on the back yet where the sailor marker label is in the front, but we'll get to that. So I'm moving on. I have this is some ephemera from the New York Times Games. I had some paper from that, some pattern paper. And when I was cropping this down, I actually was thinking of putting some of the paper itself in here because I thought it would be a fun addition, but I totally forgot about that and don't end up doing it. Whatever. So for this one, it was a little bit white. So I think a few of my pieces of ephemera were a little too white for me. So I'll end up embellishing a few of them, but some of them I leave as is. Another thing I do sometimes, especially when I don't have enough ephemera, is use part of the Stories by the Month pocket that the kit comes in to create some ephemera pieces. And that's what I'm doing here. So I used the piece of the envelope that says Stories by the Month on it, and you can see it has a like tear mark from where I tore it open and the colors of the kit. And because these vellum pieces and stuff are all from this kit, it all coordinates really well and is making this spread look so coordinated. So here I have from my See's Candy, I have so I got gift cards for See's Candy for my birthday, which is why I ordered the See's Candy. And so I wanted to include the little like pocket that the gift card came in. And so I'm cropping it down, but again, it's mostly white, just like that New York Times game piece. And that's why I thought like there was too much white. So what I decided to do was add one of the stars on top of there. And again, I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and stitch it down. So for the stitching on my sewing machine, if you don't use your sewing machine to stitch, or even if you do, so what I do is so if you stitch on fabric, usually you have the thread go like back and forth to kind of tie it off. I might not be explaining that right, but when you do it on paper, you don't want to stitch too much extra, because the problem is every time you stitch on paper, it puts a new hole in your paper. And paper is not as forgiving as fabric. It does not close that hole back up when you're not, actively poking through it. So you do see the holes a little bit. So to get around that, I just stitch as minimal as possible, and then I pull the threads through to the back and I tape them down with clear tape, which you can see on that piece of cardstock that I just did on that C's gift card pouch. However, for the ones on vellum, I can't do that because the back looks so messy. So what I was doing was just pulling the threads through to the back still, tying them off in a little knot, and then cutting them. So you can see it on the back of that green one at the top. It's not perfect. It doesn't look amazing because it is still the back, but it works. So that's totally fine. So for this one, I decided to do the same thing where I'm putting the star on the vellum, I'm stitching it, I'm pulling the threads through, I'm going to tie the knots. But to make the back look a little bit better, because this one is just a filler, there's no ephemera being added to this pocket at all, I'm just going to adhere another one of the stars on the back over the top of the back of the star. So it will cover up a lot of that thread. It won't cover up the knots entirely, but it definitely makes it a little bit nicer when you look at the back of the pocket. So at this point, I still have quite a few pockets on the back empty. I have some pockets on the front, or I think one. So I was trying to find more pieces of ephemera to include. This is one of the boxes of a new Ferris wheel press ink. I get Ferris wheel press inks. I get 2 bottles every month because I am on their team, and their bottles are absolutely gorgeous. The packaging is absolutely gorgeous. And I know some people keep their bottles of ink in those packages, and I actually have kept some of them like that, but most of them I keep outside of the package, and I end up cropping those down to include in these ephemera pages if I need extra. So I don't use them every month in these ephemera pages because I get 2 every month, so it would just be always. But they are so beautiful that I do have them. And this one I thought was perfect because the color scheme I thought went really well. It was like a teal, a greenish teal, and this kit has orange, teal, yellow, and this light lavender. I just really loved the color scheme of this kit. Here, again, I'm adding another piece of vellum to fill one of the pockets, but it was on the back of white cardstock, and I just didn't want to do another star because I felt like I had a lot of them, so I used one of the other die cut pieces from the kit. I'm going through the die cut pieces, and I was just seeing if any other ones would work or fit, and here you see me going back and putting another star on the back of that one, because this is the point where I'm thinking, oh, I can use up all of these stars and maybe use up some more of the die cut pieces so that I don't have so much to move into my stash. So here you can see me looking on the back of how many pieces I have left, and I'm thinking, oh, I have a lot of stars already on here, so I need to just add more ephemera. I had a few additional pieces here. I have this package that I'm cropping now, this like blue and white package, which was from a new charger that I picked up. And then I have that toffee chip package from Trader Joe's. And what I decided to do for these was kind of crop them as creatively as possible to keep as much pattern and as little white space, because I didn't like how white some of the pieces of ephemera were. And so I decided to kind of crop them creatively. So you'll see when I get the toffee chip one that instead of taking that front where it says toffee chips, I take the side with the diamonds, even though it's a little bit narrower than what I would have wanted for a 2x2 pocket. You could see me playing with a few of the other die cuts and chipboard pieces to see if something's going to fit. And then I move on to this toffee chips box. I have to cut these with scissors first, so I'm kind of cutting that off screen. I decided to pull over these bigger scissors to not kind of mess with my nice little craft scissors when cutting through thick cardboard. And then I'm cropping it down. Some of these thicker pieces are hard to crop on this paper trimmer. I do have a guillotine trimmer that I often will use when doing something so thick like this, but I was kind of not feeling like walking across the room to get it, so I was just making this one work. Sometimes you won't get a perfectly straight line on something as thick as that, but totally fine. I was looking at how there's that circle there, and I wanted to put something on the back of that chipboard piece, and then I still had one more pocket on the front. And I didn't have any more ephemera I wanted to include, so what I decided to do was go into my stash and pull out some of my Halloween washi tape and use that to fill the pocket, because I only get to use the Halloween washi tape for a small portion of the year, and it's so cute. So I decided to go ahead and make a little square of this one from the Coffee Monster Co. It's like Halloween books or something like that, and it's purple, and it's the perfect purple to fit this collection, the Stories by the Month purple, so I just decided to do that. For the back of this one, I decided to build it on the outside of the page protector, so I added that ghost washi, which is from Coco Daisy, and another one of the word phrase strips, and called it good. I'm not sure why I did that on the outside of the page protector. I probably should have put it on the inside, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And that's just wrapping this up. Here's a look at that completed spread with the insert, and here's a look at that completed spread photographed. You can see more of the insert and such on my Instagram. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.